We live in an age where the technology that we as libertarians have long been championing and arguing is going to be what sets us free from the state, but it's now growing more and more that while that's still true to some extent, we're seeing that also this new digital media age we live in is at least in some equal measure being used by the state to sow even more dissension in the culture, sow more conflict, and make the propaganda even harder to spot in real time. And that's what we're here to talk about and more here live tonight in the LCI Greenroom. Hey everybody, I'm Jacob Winograd. I am the host of the Biblical Anarchy podcast here at the Libertarian Christian Institute, which is part of our Christians for Liberty network. And this is our live show known as the Green Room. Generally do it every Monday evening like we are right now, but occasionally we'll do it different times or have two a week. So before anything, make sure you are subscribed wherever you're watching that, YouTube or Rumble or X. And I'll also just remind people to go to libertarianchristians.com if you want to find out more about what we do, what we're all about. I'm, of course, sporting my Ravens jersey tonight because the Ravens are playing on Monday Night Football, and even though I am an anarchist, I do indulge in a little bit of the bread and circuses. Football is my kryptonite. Not as much these days. I don't watch every game religiously as much as I used to, but since the Ravens are playing tonight, I thought I'd break out the old Todd Heap jersey. He was that kind of, I guess, ages me a little bit. You either know who Todd Heap is or you don't. But I'm excited for tonight's conversation. I have two guests with me tonight, one who is returning to the show and one who is brand new to this program. But yeah, I'm real interested to kind of talk about, we're going to be probably still talking about what went on with Charlie Kirk and the aftermath from there, but I think that connects to this broader theme of just, like, we don't even know what's true anymore. There are 5 different narratives that are being sort of like promulgated by left, right, and center, and even libertarians as to how to interpret this Charlie Kirk shooting and death and the aftermath. And it can be difficult, even as libertarians sometimes, who know to spot for things like psyops and false flags and political assassinations and interference from intelligence agencies and foreign governments. But it can be hard, at least for me, I think, but I think for many others too, to kind of know, you know what, these all seem like they're plausible theories of maybe what's going on here. So I'm kind of hoping to talk with our guests tonight, and maybe we can all work together to kind of figure out more about how to reasonably tell what is true and what is falsehood in this kind of digital media age that we live in. So I'm going to go ahead and stop ranting and bring up our guests right now. On to my right, I can't get my finger in the camera here, and I'm mirrored. There we go. I don't do this professionally, guys. Mark Puls from the both his podcast, the Knocked Conscious, and the If by Whiskey podcast, who was one of my co-hosts for the Provoked Scott Horton Book Club back at the end of last year into the beginning of this year, is returning to the show. And then new guest for the Green Room, Jason from, I think you have your own podcast, Drop the Mask Pod, and then you also co-host If by the Whiskey podcast. So thank you both for being here tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. Mark, do you want to go ahead and just reintroduce yourself here quickly to the audience who hopefully, if they have been following me for a while, remember you from the book club?
Yeah, so my name is Mark. Knocked Conscious, If by Whiskey, those are the 2 podcasts. If by Whiskey with Jason over there. Knocked Conscious is more of a solo show, or just a group panel thing, whatever it is. At Mark Sean Puls on X, Twitter, whatever it is. Follow us on If by Whiskey on Rumble. We're Rumble centric because YouTube hates us.
Yeah, I need to get better about streaming to Rumble. I am doing it tonight. I do get a little bit annoyed. So it just depends on like where I'm at in my schedule. So today I didn't get the stream scheduled till the day of, but when I'm trying to set up streams in advance, it's sometimes annoying that you like Rumble, you have to do it the day of. So
Yep, 24 hours, yeah.
Rumble needs to up their game a little bit there. But I do like Rumble overall. Jason, this is your first time, you and I talking, at least in the face-to-face medium. We've interacted on social media before, but go ahead and introduce yourself for the audience.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here. I'm Jason. I'm an engineer in my spare time in between podcasts. I got radicalized from kind of an apathetic libertarian to completely anti-state anarchist during the COVID times. So I lived through that madness, and as we all did, and I built up more than my fair share of rage. I joined the Libertarian Party at the time because of Dave Smith's call to action, who I had discovered in that 2020 era. And that kind of flamed out, as we know. But secondarily, it really brought to light the vast disparity in how people are viewing reality. And that part is frustrating, of course, but it's so fascinating that I had to learn more about it. The primer for that was Trump's campaign in 2015. I'm not going to go too long here, but that I started seeing the media just blatantly lying. And we're talking about propaganda today. So this is a nice introduction, I think. Fast forward through the COVID times up to 2023, when COVID was kind of circling the drain, and there were still some hints of things coming back, like some colleges started reintroducing mask mandates and stuff. So at that point, I was like, nope, we're not doing this. I decided to start my own podcast to try to get another voice out there. I can't say I've been very successful, but this collaboration with Mark on If by Whiskey has been great. And I've been putting most of my energy into that now. So we're usually on Monday nights, but we're doing this today. Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can find If by Whiskey, as Mark said, on Rumble and YouTube and X. We'll be on there. But again, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned you're an engineer. You are the bane of my existence as a full-time mechanic as my day job. So I spend all day cursing your folk for thinking that you can play God and come up with, I don't know what you engineer, but I at least I use very Christian, very godly language to express my anger towards these days Ford engineers for their, just increasingly creative ways to assemble vehicles and put bolts in places that no human limbs can possibly reach. So,
yeah, it's pure hubris, I will say. I have to admit.
It's all anticipation for the AI. Don't worry about it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I don't know how exactly I want to start this. I feel like we should probably just address the elephant in the room a little bit and talk a little bit about the Charlie Kirk saga. I guess that's now, man, when did that happened? How long ago has it been now? Like, I don't even keep track of
The
time
10th.
well anymore.
It's
So,
12 days,
we're
not
already
even
12
2
days
weeks.
in, but this is just, and like, I don't know even what to compare this to. Like, I think the last time some kind of major national tragedy happened that seemed to linger this long, unless I'm like, maybe you guys remember something I don't remember, but like, I feel like 9/11 was the last time I remember some national catastrophe of this level happening that played out for this long. I mean, I guess there's other ones that are not quite as heavy that had long-lasting effects. George Floyd, of course, had a long-lasting effect with protests that sparked from that. January 6th.
That was also unnatural. That was an unnatural force pushing that too. It wasn't organic by a large stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. So
This is much more organic.
So you would say this is okay. So I was going to ask. So you think this is much more organic? Because it's hard for me to tell, to be honest. How much of this is
I want your
organic and
thoughts
how
as a
much
Christian. I want your thoughts as a Christian because I watched much of that stuff. So I'd love to hear you guys watched some or all or most or whatever you did. I would love to hear your thoughts initially because I think that puts us on a level playing field, at least where we're thinking what we saw at the event, how you felt, what stood out, what things kind of, especially as a Christian for you, Jacob, because I'm not a Christian, so I can't speak from that angle. And I can only imagine Christianity's certainly front and center a part of this whole thing for certain, especially on the healing side of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just really quickly share that, like, there's a lot coming out of, like, there was that memorial that just happened, and there's moments and there's sentiments being shared that from a Christian perspective that I'm happy with. And I was listening to Dave Smith's show the other day, and he said something which I kind of felt was mostly true, that at the beginning there was a chant for this event to kind of pop off in a way where, like, what we saw the left do as a reaction to the George Floyd incident, maybe the right would do their own version of it as a reaction to this. But instead, although there have been calls for retribution and sort of like escalation, for the most part, it seems like the right has been, at least there's been enough major figures on the right calling for like de-escalation and like just paying homage to Charlie and letting his wife take over and just trying to, I don't know, like there's just been kind of good, kind of like, you know, the idea like that, what Erica said the other day at the memorial, the, you know, Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." So I'm going to forgive this shooter because he was he was a young man. He was the audience archetype that Charlie was trying to reach out to. So there's stuff that I like, and then yet my libertarian inklings can kind of like go off, little like alarm bells go off, and just be like, you know, is this all organic? Is this somewhat being played up by, like, you know, Trump was there at the rally, at the memorial, and I'm like, so was Vance and others. I'm like, is this just kind of part of some kind of like theater to kind of like, you know, similar to 9/11, which was a real tragedy, but yet was weaponized to kind of get people's emotions whipped up. And, you know, unity sounds good, but when you get unity and then that's people's emotions in that unity are weaponized towards ends that decrease freedom, it's kind of, you have mixed reactions to it. At least that's how I feel. Jason, I'd like for you to hop in and kind of share your perspective on this.
Yeah, so I still don't know what happened, what the real motive is, if the killer that they say is the real killer is even the real one. But I would kind of take a step back and kind of look at the Occam's razor. The simplest answer is that they are not letting a crisis go to waste. So obviously it's tragic what happened to Charlie, but they're, you know, people will use that for political gain when they can. And just like 9/11, even if you believe the official storyline that it was foreign terrorists, no foul play, no further government involvement on that end, even if you believe that, they still took advantage. They still went into war in Afghanistan and Iraq, who had nothing to do with it, according to the official story. So they will use these tragic events to their ends every time. So it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, that's, at the very least, I agree that like the most understated, like, I guess, like, you know, real, like, if you're going to sort of like reject maybe certain conspiracy theories or certain like inklings to connect too many dots, you still kind of land at that, at least the worry that this is another crisis that, yeah, like no good crisis goes to waste, and that there's the chance for that, which I guess I'm wary of. You know, I grew up as an evangelical Christian, and then I saw how 9/11 was weaponized when I learned the truth about American interventionism as a role in the terror wars and in 9/11. It kind of radicalized me, and I became more of a leftist. Now I've kind of circled back and become more of a right-wing evangelical again and a libertarian, but I just can't help. There's something about all this. I'm just like, this all seems very familiar, right? Kind of like I've seen that tree before, right? I've seen that scene before, like Back to the Future. It was like, I remember this one. This is a classic, right? And I'm just like, I can't help but kind of get that, like, all right, a lot of good juju going on here, like a lot of good vibes, and, you know, we're good Christians and we stand for truth and freedom. But like, I don't know, something I want to pivot to, which is, this is related, not really a pivot, but earlier today, and I responded to this just kind of like an hour ago before I hopped on here, Austin Peterson made a post saying something to the effect of like, the Republican Party is better today than it was 20 years ago. And I kind of quote tweeted it and was like, is it though? You know, kind of the Thor meme, like, is it really? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe better in some ways, worse in other ways. And to some extent, I guess I'm a little bit concerned as a libertarian and a Christian that there are parts of what is going on here that seem to, you know, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, right? And I guess that's my concern, is that I don't know that the Republican Party has actually learned its lesson, that Republicans and conservatives have actually learned the lessons of the last 20 years. So it just kind of makes me uneasy. What do you guys think? Like, how do you evaluate the Republican Party and like the Republican MAGA base? Because someone said, well, maybe the party is kind of a lost cause, but the base is a lot better now than it was 20 years ago. I don't know. Maybe it is, but I'm not settled on that. What do you think, Mark?
I think this whole thing is just pure theater. Like, the left and the right are out to get us. It took a while to figure it out, but just keep play the same song over and over again. You're going to start memorizing the lyrics. You know what I mean? Like, here it is. The left push for authority. The right say, no, smaller government. We don't need bigger government. Then some incident happens while the Republicans in power, and then that justifies the act of tyranny to be imposed, to be cheered for by those same people who just opposed it. So they've done this over and over and over again, and this is just another one of those. This free speech, the hate speech from Pam Bondi, the COVID queen, or from the state at least, that seemed to have everything right with COVID. All of a sudden, their type of powers under threat, and they don't like it anymore. And that's what it is. It's we talked with Joshua Lysick, who co-authored Unhumans with Jack Posobiec, just a few days after. It was such an honor to have him on the show. He was able to actually be a little more reflective instead of like immediate response. He got to actually share how he felt. And that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? That's how we need to move forward. This back and forth stuff is just, it's all theater. They're going to use it against us. And I'm very concerned. I'm concerned. We've blown up boats. We bombed Iran, and we're telling Afghanistan to give them our base back in their country. So like, I don't know what peaceful president, we're talking about here, but it doesn't seem, the actions don't seem to justify the sales pitch.
Yeah. What do you think, Jason? I mean, there's, as Mark just brought up, there's a lot of stuff going on around the world still, and this could serve as a distraction to that. Now, like, one of the good things that I've seen from the base is that they didn't, so like in the past when Trump would just say, drop this, or this is good, this is bad, they seemed to just kind of follow dear leader wherever he went, whatever he said. Yet enough of the base this time when he said the Epstein files are just a Democratic hoax, why are we still obsessing about this? We're like, well, no, like, we elected you because like we wanted transparency with this. This was the whole, like, what Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and all of them were running on, and now you're just kind of like as soon as you're in power, just being like, nothing to see here, everything's fine. So there's been enough of the base calling that out. And I remember, I think Charlie Kirk himself was just calling for the release of the Epstein files like the day before he was killed. So is this, again, this is one of the things where it's like, maybe the base is better than it was 20 years ago on some issues, but are they just as susceptible to letting, whether it was a manufactured or organic crisis in its nature, are they just as susceptible to kind of losing the plot as they get caught up in these sorts of things?
Yeah, I would say the Epstein thing is a good example to kind of temper my doom and gloom about the Republicans in general, because we saw them say a lot of good things during the campaign, in Trump's campaign in particular, saying a lot of libertarian things, so much that it got a lot of libertarians on board to vote for him, and even the chair of the party, again, as your audience, I'm sure, is fully aware. But once he got into power, it was, hey, we got to go to war with Iran. He's still talking about Operation Warp Speed, how great that was. And I've only seen just a small hint of a pullback on that, but I don't think they're good. They're calling for red flag laws in the wake of some of these violent actions.
But only if you're crazy.
Yeah.
But only if you're deemed mentally
mentally ill
by the state that controls whether you're have the gun or not. Only by them.
You know what I said after, not the Charlie Kirk shooter, but the shooting that happened before, where I think the shooter was identified as trans, and all the right wingers came out and were calling for basically red flag laws, or to say that anyone who is LGBT, gay, or trans shouldn't be able to own firearms. And listen, I'm a conservative Christian, so I have a very conservative view of marriage and human sexuality. But what I said was, giving the government the power to take guns away from people because of their beliefs and lifestyles, because they're crazy. It's like, hey, imagine a group of people who said, hey, we worship a guy who died over 2,000 years ago, but he only died for 3 days, and then he came back to life. And now every week we meet in our gatherings and we worship him and we eat his body and we drink his blood. Like, you don't think that, there'd be people making a case to be like, these people are crazy and dangerous and should not be allowed to own firearms. Now, obviously, I'm a Christian, and I believe I might have, embellished that description of my religion a little bit. But the point is, it's not that much of a stretch to, once you give the government the power to say, X people, if they have beliefs that make them crazy, we have the ability to take their guns away. You have opened Pandora's box.
Mm-hmm. And on that theme,
you're on a roll with the guns. Yeah, go ahead.
On that theme, like with the extrajudicial killings of the drug runners in Venezuela, I made the point on another show that it wasn't that long ago that the government was labeling parents going to school board meetings domestic terrorists because they disagreed with some policy about COVID or the trans stuff or whatever, or having sexual books taught to little kids. Those people were labeled by the not quite by the Justice Department, but it was very close. They worked with the Justice Department to define these parents as domestic terrorists. And now you're saying that because these drug dealers have been labeled as a terrorist group by the administration, that it's okay to just blow them up without any trial, any due process. So it's very scary. People can, I think the one good thing Republicans have going for them is that they do have a sense that freedom is good. And even if they don't fully have the principles worked out, that does go a long way still. So there's at least some hope for them.
Speaking of blowing up, did you guys hear about Israel? Dave DeCamp's reporting. Israel blew up 4 American citizens in Yemen. 3 of them children. Either yesterday or today. Yeah. Wow. Basically, it was like a missile strike on like a motorcycle and a car, and just boosh.
Hey, there is a country in the Middle East which is responsible for the killing of more Christians and Americans than any other country in the Middle East in the last 30 years. Can you name that country?
Take a wild
Philadelphia.
Just kidding. Well, it must be Iran, right?
That is a joke, everyone. Okay, it is not the X's. It is not. It is a select member of people who decidedly are evil in a nation state that are doing bad things. It is not a ethnic group of people. We can bifurcate the two. I think all 3 of us are in agreement with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only half Jewish, so I mean, the nose doesn't quite give it off as much as.
Is it the whining part?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What's funny is I literally once a month, whether it's on Twitter or even now, people email me and they'll be like, "Oh, Winograd. Oh, I see. You're one of them, right?" And that is one of my concerns.
Does that mean self-hating Jews? Does that mean self-hating Jew?
Well, it can mean that, or
one of them.
Or it can mean that, like, oh, like, you're a Jew, so just, like, I'm going to discount your opinion. And
just
and
in general sense.
That is one of my frustrations, is that, like, I've seen some people get disenfranchised by this current administration on the right, but then they're not always jumping ship and then landing, like, in libertarian ground. Some of them are jumping ship and landing in either Christian nationalism or other sort of, like, I don't know a good label for this. I struggle for what we should call those on the right who play identity politics in who act in woke ways. I know why people don't like James Lindsay's label, the woke right, and alt-right is kind of a retired term. And all of these terms have been primarily used by leftists to just describe anyone to the right of like Elon Musk or Bernie Sanders or anything. So it makes the discourse very difficult. But there is, like, I don't want to oversell it, but it is a growing and somewhat, I wouldn't say alarming, but it's somewhat concerning level of growth in anti-Semitism and kind of like grievance-based white identitarian politics on the right. So that's a concern that I have with what's going on in the landscape too. And some of that came out as a result of the Charlie Kirk shooting, where these people were taking to the internet and going, see, we can't have freedom of speech. We can't have liberty because the left just wants you dead. So we have to give up on this idea of liberty and equal rights and whatnot, and it's just us or them. And they're playing this narrative up. Now, luckily, I haven't seen a majority on the right buy that message, but there are more and more people buying it, and it is something that I track as a, you know, a lot of our work at LCI has been devoted to explaining and debunking Christian nationalism, but the pipeline exists nonetheless, and I find it concerning. What do you guys think? Do you think it is a concern? Am I wrong to be concerned? Is it not that big of a deal? Maybe it's a bigger deal than even I'm making it out to be. I'm curious what both of you think on that.
Yeah, it's I would say right-wing collectivism maybe is a good name for it, because it is collective, and I wonder how much of it is just kind of reactionary, because of the left wing by definition is much more collectivist, and so they build these groups. It's us and them. It's us and them, and so the them that isn't the left kind of picks that up just naturally, because like, okay, well, you hate us. But yeah, I think there is some concern saying like, you hear that a lot. They want us dead. They want to kill us. They want to stop us from speaking. It's like, who's they? One person did this. We have to remember this is an individual, allegedly. I mean, who knows who's behind it all, but maybe it was coordinated, maybe not. We don't know. Most likely, it was one individual who really did not like Charlie Kirk's ideas. That's what it seems like. And yeah, maybe a lot of other people were celebrating. You could go online and see videos of people saying, yes, we got him. Now do Candace Owens or whoever else next. And that's disturbing. But the reaction, of course, is also very disturbing from the right, because it's going to lead to violence, in my opinion.
And listen, there are absolutely disturbing people on the left who are celebrating the death and shooting of Charlie Kirk, and like we're doing it like right away. There's also people on the right who celebrate and laugh whenever like a trans person is killed or commits suicide or something like that. And it's like, I don't have to agree with, I don't have to fully agree with Charlie Kirk to, you know, be like grieved by his death. And I don't have to agree with trans ideology or left ideology or their lifestyles to kind of still be like, well, it's tragic if, you know, any innocent person is killed or if someone commits suicide. I'm not going to like celebrate that. Like, I just think it's I think it's even deranged to celebrate the death of truly evil people, right? Like I wouldn't have been out in the street celebrating when Bin Laden was killed, right? Or even if like some of the worst presidents of our time, like if I have nothing positive to say about like George Bush or Obama as presidents, but I wouldn't be out there like throwing a party if either one of them were killed or assassinated, or if Trump was assassinated. There's just something weird about like celebrating with glee the death of another human being. What do you think about that, Mark?
I will admit that I'm very glad that what we're seeing right now is people grabbing Bibles over guns from the right, or from whatever side that's feeling threatened at this point. So I will say it seems like there's a good, I'll say good in the, for lack of a better term, right? Only in relationship to other things, right? Like, I'd rather you be high on Christ, you know, than high on like meth shooting up a place. Like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I'll take high on Christ over that, right? So I'll take that, this group coming together like that. But Jason's point, very well made. Collectivism is what it is, this right wing, but it's not right wing collectivism. It's whoever the progressive threw out of their partyism. Like literally, this election was the left me. That's what everyone says. Nobody voted for Trump that didn't vote for him before. You know what I mean? They may have cast a ballot in his name, but I don't think a lot of people voted for him, if that makes sense. This seemed to be one of these crossed literal turning point type elections that we're still not certain that that's the settling. Like Jason made a good comment. What what would Kamala be doing right now? And I'm like, that's a great argument to make. Like, I'm curious what that would look like right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think she might be marginally better on immigration and marginally better on the like not pushing tariffs, but other
I
than
think
that,
she'd be less poster child for the actions. Like Trump
sure.
gets told in his ear and then makes a decision, this decisive thing off of these whatevers he's been fed. But she would just do whatever the powers did. And I don't think she'd actually actively be like the front, you know what I mean? So I think the state would still kind of grind the way it is. It's just who knows how, because Trump is this weird stopgap thing at times. You know what I mean? He's like
Yeah,
headed things off at the path.
and that's like when Trump will like do like 10 bad things, and then like the one good thing he does, it's like, man, I don't know if any other president would do that good thing. No, the good thing he does is like an accident. He's not doing it based on principles. He's just doing it either because he's stubborn for like a personality reason, or just, you know, that particular day, the last person he talked to happened to have, you know, a decent argument or idea, and so he followed through with that. So yeah, no, there's yeah, I like what I see on the right in terms of that they're not overly embracing a counter collectivism or hate, but yeah, I think the worry is how much is this going to distract them from other things that are going on. I do want to take a little a brief pause here and read some of the comments that you all have been making. I also want to just plug, by the way, I'm only drinking soda tonight. I didn't have a chance to grab any whiskey, but I want to plug our merchandise here at LCI. We have these Biblical Anarchy podcast rock glasses, whiskey glasses.
Those look great.
You can get them. You can get these branded with any other one of our podcast logos or our main, or just our main logo put on there. And we have mugs, we have shirts, all sorts of stuff. You can go to libertarianchristians.com to find all of that. Freedom Uncut said -100 for putting me on hold and playing Musak. We had people just
That's
saying
free.
hi.
We're going to get you on that show. We got to get you on Smarter Than a Politician, Jacob. You have to get on that show with us. So.
Yes, I would love to be on that show. I'm still waiting for my
We'll get you we know some people.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Get me hooked up. So. The Voluntarian said, an individualist being part of a collective, disgraceful. I think there's voluntary, like my church is a collect. I don't know. Language is a slippery thing. It's like, I don't even know if I would want to call it a collective necessarily, but like we're not individuals in the sense that like we're just all like that like there's that meme like we live in a society, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah, we are social creatures and we live in a society, but rights and justice happen at the level of the individual. So I think that's what matters. I see Jacob in 2 trunks. I don't know.
Hey, I'm sober, by the way.
There has been a couple of times where I've had a little bit too much to drink on a stream, but huge fan of If by Whiskey. There are so many good shows out there that I just don't have the time to listen to, but anything that Mark is doing, I know has to be excellent. A big howdy y'all from Texas.
That's William. That's our friend William. Will.I.am.
Just because of my age, I feel like making the joke about Texas from SpongeBob. So if anyone understands that reference, they'll chuckle. Most of the right is too old to bother, but there is a growing amount of the right that's very young. Like there is like a loud growing minority in the Zoomer generation that are like extremely right wing and like trad in a way that sometimes feels like it's almost more like LARPing than super deep, but it's a different type of right wing, I guess. See any other comments?
We got somebody from Brazil.
Yeah,
Gustavo.
from Brazil.
Look at that. Gustavo, welcome.
Yeah,
that's cool. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a fun one.
I can say it isn't better. I've lived it and can compare the R's from then to now. The R's are a reflection of society. R's and D's are the same wings of the same vulture. Interesting. I don't know that it's... I feel like it's kind of like the same, but it's different, right? Like it's like 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. So the Republican, but that's what I said earlier today. I was like, you know what? There are some things that the Republican Party and base are better on today than they were 20 years ago, and some things that they're much worse on. I don't know how you do the math, but my general just intuition and feeling looking at it is that it's kind of a wash. But that's at least where I land.
Well, you've got this cultural young movement has a lot of energy behind it. So you could get a group of half the amount of people if they're young people versus twice the amount of old people in the Republican right that are 70, 80 years old that don't know how to change a channel from Fox to something else. Like, those are two different energies right there. And I can guarantee you the youth energy, that's why they go after the youth, because the youth are the ones who actually affect the change. So the good news is it is a little more conservative movement at this part. The downside, it seems to be aligned with an authoritative law and order thing that is old school, right wing, which is law and order, not you know what I mean? Like we're all about self responsibility, self regulation, self accountability. These people want a group to impose that on between the state and ourselves, but they actually are the state. So they really aren't in between. They're actually on the side. You know what I mean? They're really on that side, acting like they're on our side. So there's another veil.
Yeah, no, I agree. They called pro-lifers domestic terrorists. I mean, yeah, I mean, like they call anyone who owns a semi-automatic rifle a potential domestic terrorist. So, all right.
Yeah, how about gun laws? Hey, it was a bolt action rifle.
Yeah, really.
What gun law? What gun? Someone tell me what one gun law would stop that single bolt action rifle. Help me understand that.
You know, as someone who was on the left, I understand, I guess emotionally, the anti-gun argument, but it's just anytime you press people for okay, what are you going to do? Are you literally authorizing and proposing that the government forcibly sending men with guns to go and confiscate all these guns from all these peaceful people all over the U.S. and then what's the end result? Like, I don't know how people on the left can say we live under fascism. Trump is a fascist. Also, I want only the government to have guns. I'm just like, are you like? It's just like you're just shooting out platitudes. You don't have a cohesive theory or understand. Like if you believed the things you were saying, like you couldn't say both those statements at the same time. It's absolutely unbelievable. So, and there has been a growing amount. The problem is sometimes is that. I don't know what you guys think about this. Sometimes centrism is almost more of a danger than people who go a little bit more like hardcore left or right. Like sometimes the hardcore left-wingers are better on gun rights than moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats. Because I've had more success talking to radical left-wingers who are like, maybe they're like in spirit anti-gun, but then like when I give them that argument, they go, yeah, no, you got a point. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Isn't that kind of most of the arguments, though? That's the Charlie Kirk special. Is like he was punching down to college kids who didn't really have a foundation behind their thought. They just had a thought. Go ahead, Jason. Sorry about that.
No, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, I want to talk about you brought up the bolt action rifle, Mark, and I want to talk a little bit about before, and then after this, we'll move to the section where we'll kind of just make it more casual, and we're going to react to some clips and posts that my wife curated for us. But I am curious to get your guys' thoughts on, like, how do we evaluate the narratives at play here, right? There's the official narrative being sold. Then there's the, like, maybe the opposite extreme is people out there who are, like, immediately, like, the next day or the same day, we're like, Israel did it, right? And listen, I'm a huge critic of the government of Israel. I understand the undue influence Mossad and the Israeli government have on our country. I believe Hillary Clinton has unalived people. So it's not like, as a libertarian anarchist, that I can't wrap my mind around the idea that politicians of our government or any government won't at times conspire to unalive people that they have an agenda to unalive, right? Like that is not my issue with those arguments. It's just, and like I think this is kind of called like arguing from a conclusion. I don't know how we as libertarians deal with this, because on one hand, I understand like just kind of follow the facts, maybe go with like the most plausible explanation that relies on the least dot connecting. But at the same time, it does feel like, as much as we've been able as libertarians to make technology like social media work to our advantage, to like be able to cut through the propaganda from mainstream media, like they don't have a monopoly on communication and reporting anymore, so that's to our benefit. But then sometimes it feels like the way that they've adapted, like if we're going to talk about the state in the abstract, in this chess move of people who are advocating for liberty and those who are advocating for total control, the counter move has been to weaponize technology to almost make it to where now the way to control the masses is to endlessly fracture the narrative, where instead of it's just here's our one official narrative and we're gonna like propagandize it so hard that you're gonna believe it. Now it's like, I almost feel like sometimes there are people out there who are like doing false flags in just like the Overton window, right? Just putting out all these narratives that like it just obfuscates the conversation. And instead of choosing between A or B, you're choosing between like A through Z of possibilities of how something happened. I think I've literally seen like 20 different theories for, you know, who the shooter was and how many shooters were there. I've seen the people who have speculated that, well, actually this, I forget his name, the one who they said is the shooter, Taylor Robinson, isn't actually the shooter, and actually the real shooter was this guy who was from behind Kirk, and they, you know, take the different angles of the shooting, and then some people say, you know, no, it wasn't either of them, it was a trained professional because of these reasons, and it was someone that none of the cameras have shown because they turned the cameras off, and it's just like, you know, who has, even like for us, like, do we have the time to research and vet all these theories? And so that's what my worry is that we live in this digital media landscape that simultaneously gives us tools to resist government propaganda, but I worry that to some extent, whether it's inadvertent or intentionally, there is a muddying of the water and weakening of our ability to actually discern truth from fiction, and people who just kind of conveniently want to latch on to theories because they sort of like it fits their confirmation bias. So what do you guys think about that? How are you sussing through these problems and tensions?
Yeah, the Israel thing is interesting. I personally don't see it. There's some coincidences, like, yeah, Charlie was maybe changing his mind about his deep support for Israel, maybe softening on it a bit. But is that the case, that you're going to go kill someone because they're softening on the position, when there's so many other people out there who say so much worse about their government and things that are probably true? But yeah, one thing you said I wanted to pick up on is that the way to attack somebody politically isn't killing them anymore so much. You know, it does still happen, but like you say, kind of diffract the message, send it off into 100 different directions, make somebody look like a crazy person. They do much more psychological warfare than violence anymore. It's been since like MLK and JFK, like those were big ones that probably done by the FBI or CIA. And they just, like, you got to realize, like, what happened when Charlie died. Everyone came and rallied around him. They had this huge thing down the street from us in Glendale, a huge memorial for him, where people are lining up to say, I support Charlie. I love everything he said. And so you've rallied this group together. You've made it worse. If your goal was politically to try to stop his message, you've just made it stronger. So I wanted to get that point. And I think that is a reason to say that governments don't really do that so much anymore.
Yeah, I think they've increased the noise, obviously, the noise to signal ratio, right? So the whole point is I think the CIA guys, like, it's not our job to make them to believe what we tell them anymore. It's our job to make them not believe anything they're being told or something. So, like, literally by having every story that no one believes, what better way to keep everyone separated? By not having two stories where you can choose one or the other, or one or a zero. You have 52 of them. I'll choose, the 36th one. You choose the 45th one. We're good to go. But like that's a big part of it, is the signal to release. The second part is there are questions. Like, let's assume this person shot him. Now, my understanding, it was a Mauser, correct? Please, in the chat, if I'm wrong, I believe the Mauser shoots an 8mm round. It's called the 8mm Mauser round. It's like 7.9 something millimeter by 50 something. Okay. Just from my understanding, just a couple things. The texts don't have timestamps on them. There's no way to coordinate. Like, just look at what they're sharing with us. They don't have timestamps. There's no way to coordinate real time what he's texting with what's happening in real time. How do we know any of that? I changed my outfit. No male. I don't care if you're transitioning, born or not. You don't change your outfit. You don't. You change, but you don't change your outfit. The vehicle and the squad car stuff, I actually buy because he did come from law enforcement. So like that feels a little less suspicious to me. But going back to the bullet, there's no exit wound. The story is it went in the front, hit Charlie's vertebra, and went down into his body. From my understanding, an 8mm Mauser round goes through things. That's just my understanding. Now, they said something about him having like a Superman neck because the way the trajectory. My thought is I do think it was a different round at a different, maybe subsonic or something, where it didn't have an exit wound. But those are suspicions. Now, that's all we know, right? Outside of that, we can just ask questions. I don't think it's the X's or the Y's or whatever, but it's really weird that Benjamin Netanyahu 3 times says, we didn't do the thing that you haven't accused us of doing yet. I found that really interesting. I don't think you need to offer.
Well, a lot of people did
accuse
Charlie them Kirk right away.
Right, yeah, right. You're right.
It was like, I didn't think it was you, but you were. What's that expression? Doth thou protest too much?
Depressed, yes. Yeah, it's a little suspicious. I admit. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if this is accurate, but the first thing I found was from NBC News, and they said, yeah, it was a Mauser 9.8, which shoots a point, I guess 30-06 caliber.
Hunters know what a 308 30-06 or whatever those kind of rounds do.
8mm. Yeah. So, yeah.
And
it is
once
weird.
again, we still don't know the whole thing, but it's odd. It's just odd.
Right. I think it's like I think it's almost similar to how I come down on the 9/11 stuff, because like there's like the 9/11 truthers, and I kind of go, you know what? Do I buy the official narrative? I don't know. There are a lot of inconsistencies. On the other hand, I don't know that I buy the conspiracy theories that people come up with either. But I think what we have to do as libertarians is almost, because I think you guys nailed it, that like it's this noise to signal ratio, that like all we have to do is make it so that people don't have a choice between a true and a false story. They have a million choices, and it muddies the waters. Because I think what this does is it's the same effect that happens with people who like stop caring about all the suffering in the world because it's like it's just too much, right? I can't deal with it. Psychologists have shown that like if you show people a video or a picture, you tell them a story about like one, African girl in a village who's like starving, who's sick, they'll have like maximum empathy for that, right? And you can get that person to, they're much more likely to give money or spend time advocating. But then it's like if you say, well, actually, it's not just her; it's her and her brother, right? And then then it's a family, it's the whole village. The more you scale out, the more people you add to it. Just human psychology, the empathy goes down, not up.
It gets diffused. That's a Sam
Yes.
Harris thing. Sam Harris talks about
Yes.
that, and
Yes.
Stalin talked about, was it a one person is a tragedy, a million's a statistic, right? That's literally
Exactly.
where that
So
came.
I think that's what people do with the news and with narratives and different political ideologies, to the point where normal people, like I was having this conversation with someone from my church the other day, and he went like, Jacob, a lot of the stuff you say makes sense, but also when I start to look into this stuff, it just gets so muddy. I don't know how to like, he's like, I trust you, but like I don't have the time that you put into this to like vet all this and to kind of feel confident that like I could believe this and articulate it. And I think that's almost the psyop that is lying everything else we're talking about here, is to kind of, it's like information warfare. And I feel like the best thing we can do is this, right? To kind of tell people that is what's going on. And we have to, I think, sometimes be comfortable as libertarians, and this is maybe tough as those of us who are podcasters. Sometimes we have to just be content to kind of like wait, to be like, you know what, we need more information. We're not always going to be like, we can sometimes call out obvious falsehoods in the moment, but to know the full truth or the most plausible version of the truth is like, you know what, we're probably going to like not be able to fully evaluate that until a few years from now, right? Or at least a few months or something. But what we need to do is to at least know the patterns of like, hey, whether this was a intentional psyop or it's just no good crisis goes to waste, recognize the directions that the media and politicians are pushing you in, and you know, you can kind of pick up on what's being done, right? Like when it's being done to push you towards hating the other side more, be skeptical of that, right? When it's being pushed towards, well, this is why we have to give up liberty in this area, be skeptical of that. Be skeptical of the narrative that's being used to back wherever someone is using that narrative to infringe upon liberty. That, I think, is a pretty good rule of thumb to at least, like, you know, might not give you the full truth, but you'll at least be less susceptible to falling for falsehoods.
The best way I love to do is like, okay, you're a Republican. You hate the Democrats. Okay, so you're going to implement this rule because a Democrat did something that you don't like. Okay, take a step back. In 4 years, when the Democrat has the power, what do you think they're going to do to you? And that inability to see just that concept for people, if you can't get that far with people, it's almost, you almost have to kind of just be like, yeah, you just believe what you believe. I don't really know how to help you.
Yeah, they just default to like, oh, well, that would never happen. Like your scenario that obviously does happen and has happened. Nah, that would never happen.
The overreach. There's never
Yeah.
overreach.
No. Well, they wouldn't do that because they care about us.
Right. I don't know how anyone can still believe certain things about the government after COVID, after the Epstein file. It's just like, how can people still be like, yep, I want these people running my lives. I want these people educating my children. I want these people to be the ones that provide me safety and security. I guess it's, I always go back to the Matrix movie and what was his name? Was it Cypher, the one who wanted to get plugged back in? There's always that temptation in all of us, right? That like some people are just like, I'd rather have the what feels like the safe slavery than the dangerous freedom. I've shared this before. I don't know if I've shared it with you, Mark, in our conversations. But I remember when I became an anarchist, because I became an anarchist in like one day over one conversation, and it did feel like a bit of a unplugging from the Matrix moment for me, where I just kind of was like, oh my gosh, like I live in a world run by psychopaths. Right? Like the illusion that like government keeps us safe and keeps the world going and all that, like once that kind of like evaporates, you just kind of wake up to the realization that like the world is a very scary, dangerous place and you are not free. You are a slave. You know, now you get used to it and it becomes easier over time. But I think some people, if they even start to feel that way a little bit, they just retreat. And
and I must admit, from my parents' generation, okay, my mom is north of 80. She escaped East Germany in 1953. So she served under Hitler, born under Hitler, lived under Stalin, crazy times. She goes, you don't know what slavery is, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I get it. I totally agree. It's not physical ditch digging. You got it wrong. They own you here. They own you here. And when they own you here, they can do anything they want to you. That's the difference. It's not like I'm fighting against like, oh, I don't want to be in chains and actually breaking rocks and picking cotton, for God's sake. Like, that's not what slavery is, man. Slavery is a pressure that is sitting on top of you that makes you, at least makes many of us feel like we can't accomplish greater or be better than we are. It's this constant pressure, whether it's with debt or with some other owing of someone to someone else.
Yeah, and I think that pressure is part of why this event with Charlie Kirk and all the divisiveness recently has felt so amplified. is because of that pressure that the government has been building and building and building on top of all of us through these, even if we say that they're innocent, they really do want to help people. They care about our interests. Well, we're all 300 million people with different interests. How can you possibly take into account all of those interests? And when we all are forced under one system, as the federal government takes more and more power, you guys know this, I'm preaching to the choir here, but that gets just so complex and complicated, you could never possibly do it. And now we're forced into this system together and nobody likes it. And so we're all just at each other's throats thinking, no, it's your fault. No, it's your fault because you want this. But it's really the people above us watching us all fight each other, and happy that we are, because we're not looking up at them.
And there is a rising, like, I'm not saying it's the majority, but there is a rising waking up to that from left and right. So as someone who was on the left, and I used to get my leftist propaganda or news from like the Young Turks. And then when Dave Smith went on the Young Turks, had a conversation with Cenk, that was like such like a weird like worlds colliding moment, because like I've met Dave in real life and had him on my show, and I watched Cenk for a while, so now they're talking, but they got it so right. Like they were like, Cenk at one point said, like, isn't it so funny how like it's all exactly what you just said, Jason, how it's this whole like look left, look right, look left. You're like, no, look up. That is where the source of your problems are coming from. Not to the left, not to the right, but up. I don't mean up as in God, but up as in the hierarchy of the class system that we live in. Those at the top are in bed with those who are in power, and I love. They're a little old, but there's two videos which I love: the Larkin Rose, the Jones Plantation video, and then the old Stefan Molyneux video, the story of your enslavement. I think those are two great pieces of libertarian propaganda that kind of help the kind of unpack the thing we're talking about here. But
to piggyback on that, subscribe to Larkin Rose. He puts out a video every other day or so. Just listen. You don't have to agree. Just listen. You will find yourself nodding along before you know it and going, wow, that really is crazy. And it is funny, to your point, that when you break from the system, it wasn't day one for me, but it was within a few months. It went from neocon, hey, Saddam, this scud's for you, to what the heck are we doing in any of these places? You know what I mean? So like, I know exactly what you mean. How quickly, once you break from it, the dissonance, you have to go through that dissonance, though. You have to go through that uncomfortable break. Yep. But once you break, it doesn't mean you have to be defiant, guys. You just have to be aware that these forces are out there trying to manipulate you, and we should do our best to thwart them at any turn.
Yeah, I wish that there was this book of God's word that said something to the effect of, we don't struggle against flesh and blood, but against the forces of darkness in heavenly places, and against rulers and principalities. That would have been that would be really great if there was a religion that had
some good literature. I think.
Yeah. Jason,
can I ask you about that? Turn the tables a little bit here.
Yeah, sure.
I'm curious your thoughts on that idea that should we even bother struggling and trying to influence people in this area, rather than just kind of leave it to God, let God handle it. We're going to have justice in the next life. What do you think about that?
That's a very great question. I think that there is as a Christian, I think Christians are called to speak against injustice. I think we're called to speak truth into power. In Ephesians it says to expose the unfruitful works of darkness. Now, is it on us as Christians to then defeat those dark forces? I think you kind of have to take this on a case-by-case basis. I can make very strong arguments for that if you lived in Nazi Germany as a Christian, as many Christians did. Like, maybe you do organize to try to take out Adolf
Germany
Hitler
was Lutheran. They were pretty Christian. They used mit Gott. Like, trust me, unter Gott. I know it from my family heritage. It's scary.
Yeah. Now on the other hand, like, there are good Christian libertarian arguments to even question if the American Revolution was the right move or not. Like, was a war inevitable there? I think we have to wrestle with these things as Christians. I think that in general, while I don't know that there's an ironclad rule for Christians as to when we should resist with force and when I think there's always a Christian model of civil disobedience, right? Like when the state oversteps its bounds. Like the earliest apostles went to their deaths not obeying rulers and authorities, right? They didn't just obey to get along, right? But that's tough. People have different callings. It's different if you have a family, right? I think that also something that has to come into play here in this calculation is understanding that like there's an evolution in these things. Like I don't expect that the state will cease to exist in my lifetime and that war will stop. But I want two things. I want my children to be able to look back and when they're learning about these things and they think about if I was a father during 9/11 and I was, saying turn the Middle East to glass, and then my children had to like, as they learned about these things, be like, oh man, my dad advocated for genocide. Like I want my children to be like, okay, my dad, my family, Christians, my religion, like they were on the right side of the history on these issues, to invoke a cliche. And I also think that, like, listen, if you would have told a slave abolitionist in 1840 that in 25 years America would be abolishing slavery, they probably might not be that optimistic. I don't know, right? And even then, the abolition of slavery wasn't like a neat overnight thing. And then you as you were saying earlier, Mark, like in some ways we are still slaves today. Murder is wrong, slavery is wrong, theft is wrong. Yet these are sins which will probably exist till the end of time. That doesn't mean that we stop opposing them, but we do have to understand that like culture and society evolves and advances over time, and I think the bend is towards justice and towards liberty, but it's a slow march. But I think that slow march is driven by the remnant, the radical remnant who refuses to compromise on the truth. So we do leave it up to God, but God uses his church, God uses those who advocate for what is true to push society in the right direction over time and to, progressively push. Because like simultaneously we live under like this evil government and empire that's like maybe the biggest government in history in some ways. And yet there are ways in which society has advanced morally and culturally and socially over the last, several hundred years or 1,000 years or whatnot. So it's complicated, but I think that's the tension that Christians have to walk, is trusting God, but in all things. Like, I'm Reformed. I think we trust God for everything, including salvation, but yet he works the accomplishment of his plan through his people, through the body, which is the church.
I would argue, though, Jacob, wouldn't your civil disobedience be within the range of your predetermined faith structure morality to begin with? So you already have a structure of morality based around it. Your civil disobedience would only be outside something that the state is doing that is outside the morality of what you normally would agree with, I would think, as a Christian, correct? Is that kind of how you'd frame it?
I don't know.
So, for example, like you follow the 10 Commandments, right? So obviously you have that. So that's your framework, for example. Yeah. Now the state comes in and gives you an 11th commandment. Now, as a Christian, that is not within your framework of morality. So therefore, civil disobedience against that type of action or that force is in a way justified, I would argue, from a Christian perspective. As long as it's within the framework of your morality of your overall Christian
I think political resistance to unjust authority is always justified. Now, is it always prudent? Depends on the form of political resistance that you were talking about. And listen, like to really push on this, like the Bible says, do not lie. But do you lie to the Nazis knocking on your door when they ask if you're hiding Jews in your basement or your storm cellar or something?
Great point.
There are some complicated gray areas here where Christians, again, have to wrestle in that tension. I don't think that we're called to have perfect answers to this necessarily. I think it's more, to put it this way, I think that God has grace for those who maybe lack courage to do the ultimate right thing in the moment. Maybe the ultimate right thing in the moment is sometimes to be willing to lay your life on the line to stand up to tyranny. And yet, I also think that sometimes like, listen, what we're doing right now is political resistance. We are three men sitting online. We could be, and there's a sacrifice here, right? Like in a Misesian sense, we are saying that part of our like I value my family. I love spending time with my family, but part of my obligation as a father and a husband, as a follower of Christ, is to model for my family, for my children, to stand up for what is right. And so that is why I have devoted a certain portion of my time every week to joining other men like you to, peacefully resist the regime I find myself in, to call out their unjust authority, to call out their evils, to call out their oppression. And listen, I know I'm maybe speaking out of both sides of my mouth here when I maybe said the American Revolution wasn't justified. What I meant was the war, but the revolution of ideas was 100% on point. And like Thomas Paine changed the world, changed the course of a nation through writing pamphlets and distributing them, right? Like the common sense, right? So what we're doing now, I think, is like a proxy, like an equivalent to that. We are trying to push the Overton window to change hearts and minds, to advocate for what is true, to affect cultural change. And some of that bears fruit in our lifetime, and some of that won't bear fruit until long after we're dead. But I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think the voluntarist philosophy really aligns well with Christianity too, because you're doing the same things. You need to build something for yourself. You need to start a family. You need to raise kids that are good, and you need to do good things for society. All that stuff is aligned in both Christianity and voluntarism. And I think those are also the best things we can do individually to counter the behemoth state that exists. Just take it out of their hands. Don't let them rule you. Don't submit to these institutions that will kill, they will lie, they will steal at mass scale. And you could easily tie that to the 10 Commandments, right?
Well, and they'll demand our allegiance. And the Bible is clear in 1 Samuel 8, when the Israelites ask for a king, God tells them, you are rejecting me as your king. And this king is going to take the best of your fields, the best of your vineyards, the best of your cattle and your horses, and he's going to take your sons to fight his wars and your daughters to work in his mansions, his house, his estate. And he ends by saying, and you will be his slaves. So that's why what we say at LCI, at the Libertarian Christian Institute, is Christ is king, Caesar is not, right? Or to say it another way, there is no king but Christ.
How dare you? Christ is king. What are you, some kind of psychopath? What are you, a psychopath narcissist? Trying to be a Jordan Peterson? You're some kind of psychopath. Dude, talking about Christ being king and all,
Don't even bring Jordan Peterson up. I have his books behind me, and there's things about Jordan Peterson that I love. I love Jordan Peterson from 2015 to 2020, and after that, I mean, every once in a while you see glimpses of the old Jordan Peterson, but yeah. Anyway,
he has nuggets, and the thing is, he's got credibility, so his guests are brilliant. You know what I mean? So he's got that ability. Speaking of which, I just want to say, Katie Miller on episode 6 of her podcast, just because she's married to that Stephen Miller. First of all, that guy got picked on a lot as a kid. Guarantee that dude got bullied a lot as a kid. That bald freaking dude who's talking a bunch of crap. Bring it, Stephen. But your wife, Katie, you're 6 episodes in. You've had Pam Bondi, JD Vance, Mike Tyson on your freaking podcast. We're sitting here grinding away for years, and we're just happy to talk with each other. So who cares? They can go pound sand. Go, Katie Miller. You go talk to Mike Tyson. I don't care. I do care. I'm actually hurt. I'm very envious.
Envy is one of those deadly sins, Mark.
It's envy, right? But we talked about how envy. What is that? What has envy done, Jason, for us? It's only made us work harder so we can get there. I don't want 1% at the top with communism, because I won't be that 1%. At least in this system, it's weighted, it's tilted, it's scaled, it's whatever. There's fingers on the scales, but I have the chance to be the thing better than being the rest. You know what I mean? Like, I have the opportunity. That's it, and it's on me, in my opinion.
Speaking of communism, we're going to switch now to our segment where we react to the reels that my wife has sent me on Instagram. This is to all you husbands who don't watch the reels that your wife sends you. I do it. I'm a good husband, but, I also kind of double dip. I'm using it for content. So So let's go ahead and play. And then if you guys can just let me know that you hear this in the chat, so I know StreamYard is doing its job right. Oh, I have to actually.
And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of 4.
So, what do you guys think? Will you eat the bugs and be happy? Maggot vending machines. That's what's on the menu tonight.
He's got too much space around him. I need to be like more in a confined pod to be eating those bugs.
Yeah, you do need the Cypher headset thinking that you're eating the steak and you want to remember nothing, right? It needs to at least have the environment around it. The suit. Well, I found nobody standing around him. Did he have maggot breath too after that? I mean, is that why no one was around him? I don't know. I guess some point we'll eat. Right? We're gonna eat protein. Some people eat it. I don't think it would be in a free like in our country, but I guess it will be. I don't know.
Jacob, you're muted, buddy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I will not eat the bugs, even if I was in a pod or in a boxcar.
You eat any snack chips? Look at
not
Cheetos.
In the car,
look at like the third
not
or
in
fourth.
the rain, not on a train, not on a boat, not with a goat.
No, I really don't eat a lot of chips. The only thing I eat that's close to chips, like today I just bought a bag of. They make it's like pork rinds, but they make it's crispy chicken skins.
Ooh, that's good.
Really
good stuff.
Actually.
Oh,
there's a good
point.
comment
Shrimp
in there.
Bugs.
Yeah,
shrimp is bugs. You saw that. That's
are
true.
bugs, so everyone's already eating bugs.
You know what? That is a
crustaceans.
Weird,
they are
technicality that
I've known that connection between like cockroaches and shrimp and stuff for a while. It hasn't bothered me, but it's like seeping into my head where I'm just like looking at shrimp now. It's starting to get to me.
Am I eating dinosaurs when I eat chickens?
Yes. But
Okay.
Dinosaurs might be tasty. They're not bugs.
All right.
They're real meat.
We'll move on to the next one here.
如果这次尝钱没被老婆发现，我会买一包好烟，然后拍个照片发到我的朋友圈。如果这次尝钱没被老婆发现。
All right. I don't even know what that was.
What is happening?
That is
that an egg?
I guess that felt like it was some kind of weird like subliminal messaging that's going on there or something to like make me want to eat apples or eggs.
Nope. We're gonna ruin every food by the time this is over.
Some of this is just my wife's message to us was, "I'm sorry and you're welcome for everything she's given us tonight." So some of this is going to be like we're going to have like commentary to give, and some of it is just meant to like
what the hell?
Yeah, just to react like that. So
and by the way, you got to look at the comment from Terry talking about she just lost her appetite for shrimp. Thanks guys. So, Terry, I'm with you. Shrimp are delicious, lobster's delicious. You and I will have a shrimp and lobster dinner sometime. We'll do it. We'll be good.
Yeah, didn't they used to like feed lobster to slaves or something because they thought it was poor people's food?
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's a delicacy.
All right. Stop.
It's only because of
what
the
they
butter.
took from us.
This is a post that she shared with. So stop excusing absent parents and grandparents. It's not normal to only show up once in a while. It's not normal to never call or check in on your child or grandchild. How someone shows up for their kids reflects how they truly feel about them. If they never come around, it's because they don't care enough to. And please stop with the "they're just going through something" excuse. We all go through things. I've been sad, sick, broken, and overwhelmed, but I have never turned my back on my kids. Love shows up every day, no matter what. This applies to anybody. Thoughts?
Seems right. I'm about to become a father myself. So
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, I can't even imagine. She's not even here yet, and I can't imagine not seeing her every day or talking to her every day.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I will say I could nuance this a bit. Like, I don't think there is actually an excuse for not spending time with your kids or your grandchildren. I do think that there is something to, I just recorded an episode on this, it hasn't come out yet, but there is something to the idea of the effect of the Federal Reserve and the inflation culture that we live in, which is just the sad fact that people have to work more than they used to. So it does make it harder. Like our leisure time and in an economic sense is much more scarce than it used to be. But it just it makes it harder. But if you care, you'll make time for your family, right? So,
yeah.
I did want to mention that earlier. We were talking about it, and under Nixon is really where it started, and basically it was like, hey, if you want to get ahead, both the husband and the wife could work, and then you get double incomes. Well, that kind of became the standard then, to the point now that we're not able to even meet that standard, and with the devaluation of the dollar, makes it even harder. But that is no excuse for that, for absenteeism in your child's life. I would hope that pro-choice is literally pro-choice, like you wanted your child. So, have it.
Go. Yeah. Well, go ahead, Jason.
My wife grew up with an absent father, so basically not there at all, and it definitely comes out in a lot of ways, and I love her to death. But it's definitely hurt her. You see it show up in the way she reacts to certain things or certain needs that she has that you might not expect a fully grown person to have. Again, not a knock, it's a fact of life. And I do understand though, but then she had a single mother, right, who had to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs to pay for things. And you got to understand that too. You got to do what you got to do to make ends meet.
Yeah, I think
and that's part of the thing too, is I think they're using that to distract us because they keep us busier.
Yeah.
So they can take more responsibility off of our shoulders.
Well, and so
why do you need to take care of your child? We can do it for you.
Exactly. And that's why I think, going back to political resistance, having children and us as men, I don't mean this to sound sexist or patriarchal or anything, but I just think generally, it's on us as men, as fathers, to work as hard as we can to provide for our families, so our wives, if they want to, and I would hope that most do want to if they had the option to stay home with their children, to pull your kids out of public schools and homeschool them. That is like the biggest form of political resistance you could do, right? Not put your kids in, I'm assuming all of us here are woke to the origins of school, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, not indoctrinate them to Prussian school.
Yes.
Schule.
All right. Let me click out of this, and we'll go to the next one. Then again, we might get whiplash because some of these are going to be deep, and some of these are going to be just funny and shit posts.
I'm still trying to figure out the apple egg.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. That was a fever dream.
that was seriously. That was like Mind of John Malkovich or something.
I have never used any hallucinogens, but that felt like I was going through what I would describe as a hallucinogenic psychedelic experience watching that video. All right. Oh, okay. Anyone who has wives probably can appreciate this. My wife constantly first of all, my wife always has to have the biggest cup of water possible, and then when it has a lid, I don't know why. Do you guys do this? I just obsessively, everything I close, I just feel like I have to make it closed as tight as possible. I don't
clamp it down. Oh yeah.
It like to the point where even sometimes I can't open it later because
allegedly the whole pickle jar thing's not a joke, guys. Allegedly, the strongest grip of a woman is less than half the grip of the weakest grip strength of a man, allegedly. That's like a fact. You just have your wife grab you on the wrist and then grab her on the wrist just a little bit and just see the difference in how you're at.
All right, next.
What's with the Stanley Cups, though? I heard there's a new one.
Oh, I get it. Shoulder work.
Shoulder work. Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
That's a good. But, Jason, you were talking about the Stanley Cup. Make that point.
I think there's a new brand that people are into. I don't know. My wife was telling me, but I don't know what it is.
When they all defected, they blew up, didn't they? Didn't they have like some kind of like recall or something? Because the lids popped off or something.
I don't know.
I'm like, dude, you can't even make a cup right. You can't make a cup right in 2025. They built pyramids like 20,000 years ago, and you can't make a cup. Man, What's going on?
The shoulder work though reminds me of those signs that say no dumping. And every time I see that, I just imagine somebody dropping their pants right there and taking a dump.
Dropping a growler.
It's like there's this old I think it might have been a Vine back in the days of Vine, but it's guy driving and he sees the sign that says road work ahead. Like, gee, I sure hope it does.
It do.
Kind of like low trash tier dad joking right there. So.
Yeah.
I watched one. There was one TV show that it was like a beer. It was like about a beer company or a brewery like / bar, and they had to take a growler to leave a growler, and like people were like taking dumps like behind the thing. He's like, "You told me to take a growler, so I'm taking a growler. But wait, you told me to leave a growler, so I'm leaving a growler."
Oh gosh,
it's just ridiculous.
I'm just an ordinary girl. Sometimes I'm lazy. I get bored. I get scared. I'm feeling.
Behind, I should start reading these for the people who might listen to the audio later. This one is behind every "I'm sorry for panicking earlier. I didn't know everything was going to be fine" is a husband who knew everything was going to be fine. I think that's partly, women are biologically wired. This is my wife's words, not me. She says that women are biologically wired to be anxious and looking out for threats, but that a good husband will put her at ease. So it's kind of like anytime she's anxious, I'm not being a I'm not being a good husband.
And to follow up on that, look at what they did with a generation. I'll call out the millennials and the whatever that generation is. They made those boys anxious. They made the boys anxious, and they can't handle a single thing that faces them because it's the reaction of the feminine. You know what I mean? It's not good or bad. It's just you need both for the balance. You need both to get through that. I think it's a really interesting thing.
I think the worst thing I don't know if it's the worst thing. One of the worst things that schools have done, public schools, is feminize little boys. And there's a reason why they'll show that girls do better in school is because a lot of it is geared towards a more, I guess, like feminine approach. Again, a lot of this is generalizing to some extent. Like, I'm not trying to.
It is, but male and female do have demeanors. There are general things. Yeah. That's why stereotypes exist. This isn't to label them. This is to acknowledge that these things exist so we can work with them, right?
Yeah, I agree. Anything on that, Jason?
Nope, just very relatable.
Yeah. All right. Do the next one. That's funny. Years ago, I asked God to send me the right woman. He sent me one so right that now I'm always wrong.
Even when I'm right, I'm wrong for being right.
As you can tell, my wife and I have a good, healthy sense of humor and ribbing on each other.
Ooh, fire.
Fire.
The winner takes it all.
So there's a post. There's text that goes with this. Nepal's presidential palace was burned to the ground as protests over corruption on social media. Protests over corruption and a social media ban spread across the country. The movement began on Monday after the government blocked Facebook and other platforms last week. Protesters demanded action against corruption, and demonstrations continued even after access to the apps were restored. On Tuesday, Nepal's prime minister resigned and fled after protesters torched his home and chased his finance minister through the streets.
Man.
This gets to what we were talking about earlier. Like, what do we? Is this what we want when we say we want to, that we as anarchists don't want to exist in a society with a state? And is this what, when we talk about political resistance, is this the shape that we would want it to take as libertarians? And then specifically, like in my case, as a Christian libertarian, I obviously I don't know that this is prudent or productive. I don't even know, like, is the outcome of this going to be a government that's less tyrannical than the previous one? We don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you make good points. I think I haven't followed this story closely enough. I really should get on top of it because it looks very interesting. But the first thing that came to my mind was the meme of that pastor that's like, Lord, I've seen what you've done for
I
others,
know.
and
Yeah.
I want the same thing for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I've seen that. What do you
But
think, Mark? Or sorry, guys, I don't mean to cut you off. You have anything else?
yeah, this would be last resort if it really gets so bad. And man, sometimes you look at it and you're like, it is that bad. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't like violence. I don't think that's the best answer. Like you said, the next thing that takes over could just be something worse. So that's something you got to look out for.
Mark, shower
If you
us in
blink
your
quickly
wisdom.
enough, it looks like the Fed. So it's not the worst thing. So just saying, I'm not saying to do anything, but if you blink quickly enough and just it kind of almost looks like the Fed. So you get a little bit of joy. Yeah, this is the effect, right? Trump is not the cause of what's happening. Trump is the effect of the shoddy management that we've been under for all these generations and decades, for sure, because we were watching the politicians aging out, and just like there's no middle class, there's like no middle-aged politicians. It's like old and young. And that's kind of just as weird too, because you're not getting that full breadth of experience, ideology, whatever, to paint that. Now, that being said, we know it's just a system running the whole thing. This is what can happen. Now, it hasn't happened here, but that's not January 6th. I can tell you that. That's not what happened January 6th.
No.
So I think we're very capable of being able to do it properly, but I don't know if we will do it properly. I just think it's in us to be able to.
I think my general belief is that a society that's capable of self-governance would not even need to resort to this level of violence to just start self-governing, right? Like, I think it has to happen organically. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe it's possible a violent revolution happens, which I wouldn't support, and then the end result is more liberty. I'd be happy with the more liberty, but I would never be happy with like what motivates us. I mean, I think I speak for myself primarily, but I think I speak for all of us here. Like, what motivates us is that we are pro-peace. We're not pro-violence. We hate the state because it's violence. Now, someone can argue, and it makes some sense, that like because the state is violent, that what's going on in this video is some expression of defense from tyranny and from violence. And I get that. But yeah, you have to be careful. What's the you reap what you sow, I guess. Is what I, to invoke a biblical phrase here, and I don't know.
The thing is, though, this does appear to be a reset. I mean, the revolution happened, right? There was a powder keg. World War I happened. World War II happened. So, it just does seem like this one seems more organic than like Maidan, which we could talk about, Jacob, forever, right?
Yes, I will give you that. But to your point, coups happen all the time, and there's a hierarchy of them, right? And yeah, I mean, hopefully there's no Nazi militias in Nepal's forces. I'll just leave it at that. Move on to the next
I'm curious.
one.
Does anyone know about the government stuff going on there? Because no one's talking about Somalia. If anyone doesn't know, Trump dropped at least 71 airstrikes on them this year, which broke his old record of 65 that he set in 2017, by the way, or no, 2019, I think. No one's talking about that. No one's talking about all this other stuff. Like, is Nepal one? Is there something about rare earth about Nepal? Is something structurally or really geographically or strategically important that for America that this benefits us? Or is this literally the Nepalese uprising, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know enough. Like Jason said, I have to look into it more. And my wife told me she put this in here, and I was like, man, I gotta look into this more before the show, and I didn't get the time. So,
and the Fed also.
Yeah, always end the Fed.
Yeah, I think you're right though, Jacob. And one point I want to add, one of my favorite things I've heard Spike Cohen ever say was, yeah, I'm an anarchist, and if I had a magic button to just turn the government off and it would cease completely, what would happen is not that would last. It's that everyone would go back to work, rebuild. They'd be like, what the hell did you do? And then go back to work rebuilding
Yes.
the same government or something worse, you know? So man, it's kind of cool to see people rising up against tyranny. That's great. But, you know, what's going to happen after this? I think you're right. It has to be organic. We have to build parallel institutions that don't involve coercive force.
Yep, 100% agree.
And two things about that. Remember, anarchy means no rulers, not no rules.
Yep.
And we believe in governance, not government. It's a very
100%.
different thing. Managing your life is much different than being tyrannically oppressed.
And I'll plug our book here, Faith Seeking Freedom, which I've plugged on the show before. That's our flagship book here at LCI. And our question 26. Wait a sec. Are you saying there's a difference between governance and government? So yes, there is a difference.
Yes, indeed.
So this, I know what this is. It's going to be painful, but my wife sent it, and we're gonna view it. We're doing it wrong, boys. People make money just eating food and being disgusting on the internet.
You're trying to be smart. Just stuff your face.
This is nothing compared to what I've seen people eat and volumes.
This is tame. This is pretty tame, actually.
This is tame. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Wonderrat, because that was tame.
Looks pretty good.
Like, where's that one dude that got super fat doing the noodles and then he like lost like 300 pounds or something?
What was that guy's name? I know exactly what you're talking about. That was
wild. I forget, but it was like, oh.
Yeah, no, that was insane. Speaking of Spike Cohen, we got a post here from
Hey, I predicted the future.
Yes, you did.
Precog.
Multiple things are true. Jimmy Kimmel hasn't been funny since the 90s. I don't even think he was funny then. He actively wished for every one of us who didn't get the COVID shot to be refuse treatment and die. And besides praying that, he repents and turns to Jesus. I really don't care to hear much from or about him again. And then the second thing in hyphen, the second point, because multiple things are true. The second point is the FCC shouldn't exist, and the government shouldn't be pressuring private companies to deplatform people like they did to us during COVID and many other times.
Yeah, I saw this tweet. I think there's actually more to it. I don't know if there's more slides here. But he had several other points to add. They were all very good. Spike's one of the good ones.
Yeah, Spike's one of the few people that if I had to retweet someone without reading their post, and it was Spike Cohen versus anyone else, it's like always Spike Cohen. Like, I don't even have to read what he says. I'm gonna be like, I'm not 100. Like, I don't like using the term 100% to describe my confidence in almost anything. But I'm about 100% certain that I would agree with anything Spike posted, and I'd be confident to retweet it. So
that's because Tasha keeps him straight.
It's true.
That's 100%. Like, it is interesting. I do look at these people who have come to faith. Like, Spike recently come to Christianity, or at least been extremely expressive about it. His come to Jesus moment and whatnot. And I look at Tasha as a strong woman. I look at Erica Kirk, for example, as a strong woman. And it's like, it's so weird that we talk this. I don't even know what it is. I don't want to call it left, progressive, whatever this infestation, something about women empowerment. It's like, women have had the power, man. They are, first of all, household decision making in a family. It's like 80% the wife or the mother, or the wife and mother make the decision. Like, men are the calmness, and women do I don't know. It's so hard to explain. It's like, I don't understand how the value was taken away from women who had power to give them power in a different way that becomes like a combatant adversary versus a collaborative person to your mate, to the other. I don't understand what caused that. If that's actually an evil intent, or if it was a greater good, the road to evil's intent, the intent, whatever, the what is it? The
Yeah.
path to evils and paved with good intentions. Was it a good intention that went awry, that they didn't foresee this thing, or was it an actual like we can really screw people up? I'm just curious what you guys think.
I think I'm not an expert on this, but from what I've seen, like some people will say like, well, I'm a first wave feminist, but I'm like, you can read some of the writings of the first wave feminists and they were kind of arguing for the end conclusions that we see now. So I think that there were things that like there were things about the status quo between men and women that were wrong that feminists were reacting to, but it was just kind of like we don't agree with Democrats, and then Republicans are like, we're anti-Democrat, right? We're anti-left, and then we're like, yeah, no, but you're still wrong too. I think it's kind of how it is with patriarchalists and feminists. It's just kind of like the Family Guy meme. It's like kids, you're both awful. I think common sense and biblical ethics, when it pertains to masculinity and femininity and the relationship between men and women, are not easily reduced down to like an ism of like, feminism or patriarchalism or egalitarianism or whatnot. Because like I think men and women are different, right? I think they're complementary though. I think they're equal in the eyes of God, but I think they are different in ways that feminism does not account. Actually, they're different in ways that feminism accounts for and intentionally sought out to undermine. The earliest feminists basically were writing that they wanted women to become more like men. So you can kind of actually draw a straight line from early feminism to modern day transgenderism.
Right. And I don't know if
unironically.
Camille Paglia considers herself a feminist, but if you listen to her work or read some of her work, it's impressive because she's like, in order to be a man, you have to be a badass. She's like, you can be. It's just not your default nature, but it's like it shouldn't be the cultural thing. It's just you can be, but to do it, you have to become the energy of the man. Like, you know what I mean? And it's a different energy. It's a different type. And we've seen women who were bosses like that. We've seen women with some serious masculine energy, no doubt.
Yeah. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I think there's a reason that, those differences in roles and behaviors evolved for men and women to complement each other, of course. So I don't think anyone should be forced if you fall outside of those norms, you're somewhere outside the bell curve, fine. No one should force you to be what you don't want to be, but to try to mold society in the image that you think it needs to be is the same problem that we get with government, trying to force everyone into one path, and no one's free to do what they want to do and they should be doing to make themselves more prosperous.
That's a working theory I have is what happened in our Generation X kids who were different. Those parents were really hard on them. And they were really tough on being different. They didn't have the grace I think you should have. Those people got resentful, bitter, envy, got into these positions, said, I'll just take your kids now. And that's how that started to fester. And it seems to be almost like that's how I've seen it happen is we should both have the grace to allow people to be different within the realms of living together, whatever. And also, accept that it's okay to not be, or that it is. It's so weird.
I think you can simultaneously recognize that men and women are different and that they have general, so every man is different from, so here's a better way to say it. We're all individuals, but if you kind of look at all men and all women, and you kind of mapped out characteristics and trends and personality traits and things like that, they're going to cluster. But you're going to get outliers. And I think the problem is the outliers, or people who notice the outliers, want to say, if it's clustering, it's tyranny, right? Like different outcomes is tyranny, it's evil. And that's obviously wrong. Then there's some people who go, oh, well, anytime anyone is an outlier, we have to punish them. And I don't think that's right either. I think you have to recognize the clusters, but allow for the variability of individuality, which sometimes that's where you get ideas like tomboys, and you get, men who I don't think that they're born gay. There's some men who maybe are born with more feminine temperaments and interests, but could be like Jordan Peterson. We brought him up earlier. He said this about himself, that his temperament and his interests are primarily more in the female domain, but he's still obviously a heterosexual male. I do wonder, and I know this is kind of like taboo in our culture right now, but there is no gay gene. I think that there is a genetic component to why people have homosexual desires. Like there's a genetic component to anything in life, right? But I think it is more an environmental thing. I think it is a convergence of many environmental factors, some of which are socialization, some of which are parenting, some of which are maybe, things in our food and our soils that the government's exposed us to over the decades. I think one of those things is being too tyrannical towards like maybe a young girl who's more masculine or a young boy who's more feminine, and being like, you're wrong, and that can kind of like condition them to be like, well, if I'm wrong, then maybe my sexuality is wrong or my sex is wrong, right? And so anyway, there's a lot there, but that's kind of like my thoughts on the topic. And it touches
it's a scab. I picked that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, there's a lot there when you start talking about feminism and the roots of it and the effects of it, for sure. All right, we'll do a few more here before we sign off. Nope, it is not playing. Why is it not playing? There we go.
It was a coincidence that
Let me start over because the audio wasn't playing. Oh, now I gotta scroll up. There we go.
Memorial today on purpose. You hear me? On purpose. Do not let anybody tell you it was a coincidence that almost 80,000 people packed the stadium on the exact day of a solar eclipse, a new moon, and Saturn at opposition. That's not random. That's staging. That's choreography. And it wasn't for you. It was for them. And here is the ugly truth. Crowds are batteries. When tens of thousands cry, chant, and sway together, you create a current. Science calls it collective effervescence. Spirit folks call it energy harvesting. I call it what I see it, stealing your grief and cashing it in. And this playbook isn't new. The Romans did it in the Colosseum, blood and bread to distract the people while the empire pulled strings behind the curtain. Televangelists do it every single Sunday, whipping a congregation into tears, then passing the plate at the peak. Even Hollywood showed you the metaphor in The Matrix. Humans strapped in as living batteries, feeding a machine that doesn't give a damn about.
Wow, there's a lot there.
Yeah, where do you start with that?
And you are I'm like, hi, I'm Mark.
There was a solar eclipse. I thought we didn't have one scheduled for another 4 years or something.
Well, that's like one of those things where it's like, they had you had me in the first half. I'm not gonna lie. But then she almost at the end went back to sounding almost kind of sane, but in the middle with the whole clouds and energy and astrology and alignment, it's kind of like, okay, that was a little but yeah,
these things are lined up. Like, pick any moment in time and something is lined up somewhere, so you can associate it to that.
Yeah.
The alignment stuff, silly. The collective energy stuff, I do think has a reality to it. There have been instances where they've shown like a global sorrow at world events that were actual tragedies, like globally. It's interesting. I've had experiences too, so it's like hard to explain, but like some of the personal stuff, it's different. But what she said about the energy stuff, she actually did kind of clarify it. She just said it was so weird. It was crazy. But yeah, the feeding of the machine, we do it with our money, our time, our attention too. Mm-hmm. So she did really kind of circle back. Is like, yeah, you're feeding it that way, not just like we are a battery, but that's also, any resource that it uses from us.
Yeah.
No, and it ties back to where we started, really, with the not letting the crisis go to waste. Yeah, of course, they're making it a show. They're doing something to, strike your emotions so they can get away with whatever action comes next.
If I had one criticism about the event, if I were be completely honest, one is I wish they would have turned off the Turning Point USA scroll in the background while everyone's talking. Maybe put it on between guests or something. but it's like, or put Charlie's name up there. It just did not make sense. That's the theater that really stuck out to me, was that backdrop of the Turning Point USA. Like, I think it's like 3 lines of it going across the background. And you're like, just turn that off while they're talking. Turn it off, or put Charlie's name up there with, birthday, whatever. Something just different. That's what really seemed commercial to me about it. I don't know if that stuck out to you guys.
Yeah, I didn't see any of it, so I'll take your word for it.
You're smart. It's good.
It just
is the
felt
greatest.
Yeah, again, there's if you show me clips from the event, a lot of them are good, but then like if I was watching the whole event and just, I get wanting to celebrate him, I get wanting to like pull something positive out of something negative, but there was a point where it just felt too much like theater, and I felt like that was actually kind of like undermining the actual human, genuine moments in a way, which
it did,
unfortunate.
And it did. It just seemed overproduced.
Yeah.
In a weird way, like just pushed, forced, Yeah. But I will say, is like Turning Point USA bought my boss's old building before we moved, so like they were a weird, not connection, but just like an adjacent thing. I've driven by it a couple times going on my way to Costco, because you got to go to the Costco, and it's been crazy. It's been a crazy crowd of people. I'm curious how it's going to look in a month. Like, I know it's still going to be something, but like I'm just curious how it's, who the devotees are, the real, like obviously everyone's currently going, but time will give, also let's follow the money. Let's see what direction Turning Point USA goes.
Yeah,
do they take $150 million offered to them by BB, or do they not? Things like that. Just those curiosities.
Like if Turning Point suddenly becomes more pro-Israel than the Daily Wire, then it starts to kind of be like, okay, it doesn't prove anything, but it starts to clarify the playing field a little bit, I think.
Right. And I think all of us, the 3 of us, have just had a healthy kind of wait and see approach. The only thing I've tweeted about it is bad opinions don't justify murder. That's the only thing I've tweeted about the whole situation. Not X, Y, and Z happened and this and that. Like, we have let's just, everyone slow down a little bit.
He was more based, though, in some regards than I realized. Like, there was this one clip I saw, I think the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire shared it, where, like, someone came and was like, oh, I studied economics in college. He's like, okay, do you know who Mises is? Like, do you know who Hayek is? Do you know who Rothbard is? Do you know who Milton Friedman is? Do you know? So
I know Keynes.
You're right. Yeah. So like,
Thomas Sowell. Yeah.
Yeah, he brought Thomas Sowell. Yeah. I mean, so it's just like, he. But anyway, even his bad takes, like none of it justified it. I think we'll end here with one of the reels she sent me. His one with Charlie in it. I think we'll do that for the last one.
Mattress firm. It's a money laundering scheme or something.
Allegedly. We're not doing the Dominion thing here. Okay.
No. It is
allegedly.
There is a conspiracy theory out there, and
we're going to get lawsuit after lawsuit.
There is a conspiracy theory.
Alex will be deposed, and all of our text message will be made public.
Look, I didn't come up with this.
Have you seen this, though? This is wild.
There's something going on.
There are too many mattress firms in existence to justify the amount of mattresses people buy. When's the last time you bought a mattress?
Exactly.
And I didn't buy it from them.
Then why is there a mattress firm on every exit in every city? There's so many. Think about how popular Chick-fil-A is. We don't even have that many Chick-fil-A's, and you have lines going around the building, and they don't have that many franchises. And yet, any given city, there's like 100 mattress firms, and nobody buys mattresses that often. So how is the demand for this many mattress firms making any sense?
So just so I understand the argument, whose money are they laundering?
Probably the cartels.
Yeah. Well, then you got it.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
Mattress firm.
What do you guys think? Mattress
That's
firm
such a great one. I mean, I kind of buy the premise. People don't buy mattresses that often. And there's so many. There's one going up, a brand new one around the corner from my house. And I'm like, what's going on? So I ask questions. Yeah, I'm curious. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think I never bought a mattress from Mattress Firm, and I've only bought like a brand new mattress maybe twice in my life ever. So it's not often. So yeah, no, I don't know. At the same time, though, so if I was going to make a plausible explanation, like I can imagine the really like rich of the world might buy a new mattress like twice or 3 times a year, right? Maybe hotels replace. It depends on the hotel. Like some cheap hotels, they haven't replaced a mattress ever, but then there might be other ones that replace them frequently. But I don't know. I think you can.
Yeah, but they're probably not going down to mattress firm to
Yeah,
go.
so I don't know. Like, I'm trying to come up with alternative theories, but it does seem like there's a lot. So I don't know.
I mean, if you compare it with like other furniture stores, people also don't buy furniture that often, right? But there's probably way more furniture stores out there than mattress stores. I don't know the numbers. I'm just kind of thinking about all the stores around, and
but those are
seems like that.
individual like individual furniture stores. They're not like furniture chains. The chains might have 3 or 4. Like to your point, the mattress firm's pretty crazy. That's interesting. Never really thought about it. But did you guys ever hear the Mountain Dew one? The Mountain Dew theory, the conspiracy theory about right when they release, just look this one up, everybody, but right when they release a new flavor or drink, right after a huge disaster happens.
Yes.
And some guy did they just released Baja Blast, some new blast thing. He goes, I guess we're going to get flooding in Texas or Houston or something. And then they had that flood like a week later.
Or there was like a volcano. No, was it a volcano or there were fires?
Yeah, there's a volcano going off. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I heard this before. Yeah, that's one of those things where, again, it's like this is the tough thing. This goes back to the theme of the episode. I'm glad I picked that one for the last one. And, we have to be careful as libertarians. Like, we're good at finding the connections, but that tool, that ability to draw connections, you can draw connections between unrelated things if you're trying hard enough. So you have to be diligent. You have to be patient. You have to, do the libertarian term. You have to have a low time preference.
Charlie did a good thing there, asking that question. Like, who are they doing it for? Like, let's have some follow up and see. Okay, is there really anything behind this? Could anyone be benefiting from this? What's really going on? And maybe you find something, and maybe you don't. But sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, not at all. It's just pattern recognition is what we have to look. We can't force patterns. To Jacob's point, right? We have to see that the patterns are there. We just have to see when they exist, right? We have to kind of know those templates or know the general pattern, the general shape of them and things like that. So we shouldn't force things though. That's what we have to be very careful about. Like people are still talking about Thomas Massey's wife being killed by Israel. And I put something up on the Thomas Massey thing and somebody said, well, his wife, I said, I'm not on a side of this, but I met Thomas like 2 weeks after his wife's passing. He said he cried all night so he wouldn't cry that day. It was at Freedom Fest. It just happened to bump into him like first thing in the morning. He was just sneaking in. And it was just amazing. He has no claims about his wife being associated with any kind of bad things happening to her because of that. So like, we have to be very careful about these things just as much as when we recognize that something is sticking out.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jason.
Sorry. Can I share something? Because I've been thinking about the coincidences, and I read something in this book, Scott Adams' Loser Think. He says coincidences usually mean nothing, and they are the fuel of confirmation bias. If your argument depends on not knowing how else to explain a coincidence, you have a poor imagination, not an argument. So I thought that was good.
And I think that's both of you made really good points. And I would try to bring a third point here, which is that we know the times where Israel is to blame. And if we start doing Israel did it to everything, we make anytime we say that Israel did something sound like it's part of some, wacky kook job, like, it's just these weird anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, lunatics on the internet that blame Israel for everything. And it's like, no, I want to distance myself from that crowd so that my criticisms actually have weight to be like, and it's not Israel any more than it's America. It's the government, right? Like it
is always government though.
like Charlie Kirk actually said this when one of his recent things about Israel before he died, which is that like he actually did understand some of the criticisms about Israel's government and their treatment of the Palestinians and their reaction after October 7th and their maybe like undue influence in American politics. And yet he's like, but I love Israel because it protects the holy sites. And I do find their culture and their people to be like, we have more in common with them than we have with a lot of the countries in the region. And I'm like, that's kind of my take. I don't hate Israel, the people or the nation or the concept, any more than I hate America or the people or the nation or the concept. We just hate violence. We just hate governments that when governments or anyone hurts innocent people. And we hate when politicians lie and steal and bribe and conspire. And that absolutely happens. And so I'm going to call it out when my government does it. I'm going to call it out when the Israeli government does it. But I'm not just going to start kind of lazily, like, what's that one guy's name? Guy with the mustache. I'm forgetting his name right
Ian
now.
Carroll?
Ian Carroll. Yeah, I'm just going to,
He has
Israel
has
did it.
taken a step back since. He definitely overstepped. He definitely got over it ahead of his skis. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And it's like, just again, show us the evidence. Show us what I think it makes much more. Now, there are things about the official narrative, again, that we can question. Someone made a comment earlier, which I forgot about this point, that what they released as like the text messages between him and his father or him and his trans partner, I was like, okay, no, that looks
That's
100% made up.
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah.
That's
I don't know if you
not
saw
real.
Free's comment. He said they admitted they rewrote them.
Okay, yeah. So like maybe there's an
So
explanation.
they must have read them and then paraphrased them. Is that what they're claiming now? Is
I
that the
don't
claim?
know.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. How that guy just gets off for just the incompetence of these people. But if I may, the thing is, like, I know the dust is going to settle on Charlie, and people are going to stop deifying him, and people are going to stop vilifying him. He's going to settle clearly in the middle, right? Obviously, we all think he was a solid guy. But if you do take a step back, watch Larkin Rose's point. What he it's not him. His heart's kind, but he advocated for a group of people to do things to others. So like the things that we've realized, I think he was getting there. I do think he was cracking and getting there. He was getting the point where it was like, oh, what I'm advocating for is actually tyrannical in addition. We need a different solution that's not tyrannical to solve this problem, right? I think that's what we're going to find, right? Is that, look, yeah, he was a good man, a great husband, a great father, but he still pushed for the state doing X, Y, and Z. And we realize that that's just not going to cut it.
I think something you just touched on, which this will be my last point, and I'll let you guys kind of make some closing remarks before we go. Something we need to get better at as libertarians is not just standing up for what we're against, but pointing out that a lot of problems people think we need the state to solve, we can solve without the state. Like, there are sometimes legitimate problems that conservatives and liberals are reacting to. Like, I'm not for ICE or mass deportations or closed borders, but I'm not going to ignore the fact that open borders under a state paradigm causes issues, right? The solutions are to create more freedom in society, that when we decrease welfare, when we increase the ability for people to discriminate economically, to have freedom of association and disassociation, when we have effective criminal justice systems that actually punish real crime and don't waste their time punishing a bunch of victimless crimes, that this would do a lot to alleviate these problems. That, like, hey, we have actual solutions for these problems that people are reacting to in society, whether it's gun violence, whether it's violence from anyone, whether they're immigrants or they're born here, whether it's economic problems, whether it's diseases and pandemics. Like, we actually have ways to solve conflicts and solve societal problems using the market and not using the monopoly of the state. And so we have to remember that part of our philosophy and our, what we bring to the table as libertarians to be, because sometimes you won't always convince people by just knocking down their ideas. Like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. They're going to get to the point where they go, well, what do we do? And that doesn't mean we're going to have the answers to everything, but if we have, just figure out what we do have the answers for and advertise them more and advertise more the ability of the free market to figure out the things we don't know, that's going to go a long way too. Because to your point, I think a lot of people are like Charlie Kirk. They're good at heart, and they don't recognize what the state is, what laws are. They have like that disconnect, that cognitive dissonance, and they don't have the full imagination to imagine how to operate and do things without the state. That's where we can come in, and we can, to honor Kirk's legacy, persuasion, not force to solve problems, but he did have the right ethos, right? So he didn't have the right ideas all the time, but he had the right ethos, which was conversation and persuasion and not force. So, Mark, Jason, any order you guys want to go in, give your final thoughts before we close out, and make sure you plug anything you want to plug before we hop off as well.
Yeah, very well said, Jacob. I think that's exactly right. And to Mark's point, he did seem to be coming around. I kind of wrote Charlie off early in his rise to stardom, because I was just like, this guy's too much of a conservative for me, not quite my thing. But listening to some clips after the fact, after he's been killed, I'm like, man, okay, he was maybe coming around on some of these things that we are all aligned on. And who knows, he was an insane talent, regardless of whether you like his message or not. He was talented at doing it. And he could have been a great voice for liberty had he kept that trajectory. So it's very sad. And of course, I feel most of all for his family, his little daughters, who will have to grow up without a father now. It's horrible. But anyways, that being said, thank you so much for having us on. Please come check out If by Whiskey, everybody watching. Again, we're on Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern, or come check it out anytime. YouTube, Rumble, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, I think we're going to do an If by Mattress Firm on October 5th.
We might have to.
So we're off September 29th, just next week. So thank you so much, first of all, for everyone who jumped on. Jacob, thank you for the invitation. This conversation it's just great to have in this way that none of us we're just looking at things as objectively as we can without too much judgment. Where any judgment comes with the grace that we judge as well. So hopefully, it's more for education and just for learning these things. So we're so grateful for everybody who showed up. I have a feeling there's a lot of people on, because I don't even see a number, but it's probably pretty big. So thank you very much for everybody who joined us. But Jason over there, dude, you're going to be a father in December. Baby girl coming. I'll be your human shield, bro. You can hold me. I'll stand. You just human shield me, man, because it's not cool.
Thanks, buddy.
I don't want to see that happen to you. Everyone be safe out there. Just be vigilant. I'm not going to lie. This incident has caused me to reassess whether I want to carry. I'm always concerned because I'm with my girlfriend most of the time, and I know how she feels about it, and it's hard to be dance the line of personal feeling and the other side of the anxiety, so we got to be more calm presences to all our people.
Be a man, be the man.
Yeah. We did one on masculinity. We know that Tim Walls knows everything about it.
Gosh. All right.
Well, thank you again, Jacob.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for joining. This was a great conversation. I think, I agree with everything you said, Mark and Jason. I think we kind of showcased here, kind of this was the libertarian ethos, and I would even argue the Christian ethos on display here. So just conversations like this are what we are all about. Make sure you subscribe to their shows and to mine. We are also on Mondays. We're usually on an earlier time, though, so there won't be a conflict. We're usually on at 6:30 or 7. So catch us on Mondays. Usually they're live, and check out our other shows at the Libertarian Christian Institute by going to christiansforliberty.net. That's all we have for you guys. So we'll be talking again